2.
Hello, everybody.
Wait, not yet.
We're almost live.
I'm going to say it says live.
And 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello, everybody. We're just getting ready to get started here on our collaborative chat focused on kindergarten readiness. So hang tight. We're going to let everybody get logged in and get situated before we get started. And we are live. Just hanging tight. Stick with us. We'll get started here soon. We're going to get started here soon. Thanks for being patient. We're going to give everybody a chance to get logged on, and we'll get started here in just a couple minutes.
Sorry, I was sent a picture of my dog got into the mac and cheese. So my white dog has a completely orange face right now.
I have to use that later on. We'll tease that so people stick around to see that photo at the end. Thanks for hanging tight with us. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes. We're letting everybody else get logged on. And this will be our collaborative chat live focused on kindergarten readiness in Lorraine, Elyria, and Oberlin. So we're excited to get started here in just a minute. All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll get started here. Thanks for tuning in to our live collaborative chat focused on kindergarten readiness in Lorraine, Elyria, and Oberlin with Rising Titans, Ready, Set, Go, and Oberlin Kids. I'm Ryan Aroni, the President and CEO of United Way of Greater Lorraine County. And again, I just want to thank you for joining us live on our YouTube channel. Now, when I think of what is expected of kids when they enter kindergarten, I really think back to my own experiences. And mostly what I remember is playing with blocks and finger painting and you know, just having a lot of fun. But as my recent birthday reminded me, that was a really long time ago. And things have changed since then. And in reality, kids nowadays actually have to master 150 skills before they even walk into a classroom for the first time. So I'm really proud to introduce to you Jen Keithley, Nicole Belmore-Pierce, and Caitlin Gonzalez, who are leading efforts throughout our community to surround our youngest learners with the supports they need to master those skills to be on track for kindergarten. So with that, I want to introduce each of them and have them tell us a little bit about themselves. Jen?
Hey, I'm Jen Keithley. I'm the director of Oberlin Kids, and we have been around since June of 2014. So we just celebrated our 6th anniversary. And we are providing kindergarten readiness support for children and families in the Oberlin City School District.
Thanks, Jen. Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole Belmore-Pierce. I'm the Director of Community Services at Horizon Education Centers for Ready, Set, Go to Kindergarten. We actually predated the collaborative system of the United Way. So I'm coming up on 9 years in October with Ready, Set, Go, which is only about 8 years longer than I thought I was going to be here. But it's been such a good ride, I can't leave.
Thanks, Nicole. And Caitlin?
Hi, everybody. My name is Caitlin Gonzalez. I am the baby of the group. So I'm the coordinator for the Rising Titans Collaborative. We've been really active the last 2 years in really building up our initiatives and programming, working with partners and centers in Lorraine and serving Lorraine City Schools district.
Thanks, Caitlin. So for everyone watching, if you have a question or there's something specific you're interested in learning about, please feel free to comment below or put a question in the live chat, and we'll address those as we go through. And then I'll start with a round of questions for our distinguished panel of leaders. So can you tell us a little bit more about how kindergarten has changed over the years and how it's actually harder for kids today than it was back when I was starting?
I can go.
Why don't you take that?
Okay. So I think there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of differences in kindergarten expectations. But one of the greatest changes is that when I was a kid, we had the letter people, and like Ryan said, we sang. I remember putting on like a Hawaiian concert and things like that. And it was very much play-based. Learning your colors, bouncing a ball, all those things. And expectations have really been stepped up for kindergartners this year. I've heard it phrased that kindergarten is the new first grade, where we were just learning to play with each other in kindergarten, but now kids are learning to read in kindergarten.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference. I remember when I was in kindergarten, I could read by the time I got there, and I was the exception to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, with having over 150 standards that they need to master by the time they walk in the doors, it's the expectation that everybody's going to be able to read by the time they're out the door. So there's a lot more expectations. I think they're a little more organized than they were back when we were all in school. And the letter people are gone, and I love them.
I miss them. They're on YouTube. You can find them there.
YouTube.
Great, thank you. And you all have taught me so much over the years working together. One of those is how critical the first few years of a child's life are and how meeting developmental milestones is so important. Can you tell us more about why it can be important to monitor your child's development and how that's related to kindergarten readiness?
Sure.
So developmental milestones are those points in a child's life that we expect every child to hit, right? So we expect every child to sit up, and that's generally around the same time. And we expect every child to start talking, and that's generally around the same time. And so they build on each other, they're typically a pretty linear fashion. So to monitor those gives us a clue when a child is not meeting those milestones on time. And it might be that they're just not quite ready yet because everybody meets it in the same general time. But some people are a little late to the game. Some people are a little ahead of the game, right? My little brother, he didn't talk until he was like 4 because I talked for him. He never had to say anything because I said it all for him. But monitoring those, and we all use the Ages and Stages questionnaire, gives us insight into where kids are at, where they might be struggling, how we can help catch them up. And, you know, sometimes it's things people don't think about. You know, they'll come and say, well, my child's not talking yet. And we say, did you have their hearing been tested? Right? Because it might be that there's a hearing issue, not that they don't know how to put words together. So monitoring those developmental milestones really gives us insight into where kids are at and how we can help them.
And I think it's,
Go ahead.
I think it's really important for people to realize that 90% of a person's brain development happens between 0 and 5, the most critical point being between 0 and 3. So a lot of people don't even realize that that's where a lot of the magic happens. So like how Nicole said, really looking at kids and, okay, when you're not on track, let's get you back on track, or let's be, you know, get you up to date and whatnot. So that's really, a lot of people don't realize that brain development is super, super important at that little age.
And I was just going to add, I think that the really great thing about the Ages and Stages screening that all of us use is that it's not a, it's just a screening. It's not anything that's going to say your child is X amount of months behind or anything.
Right.
It's a conversation starter. So, you know, like Nicole's saying, like your brother, you spoke for your brother. I've had a family that their child couldn't jump with both feet coming off the ground at the same time. And so their gross motor score was really low, and that potentially there could be a concern for that. But through conversation, we found out they live in an apartment and the kid is not allowed to jump because of the downstairs neighbors and being respectful, or that a kid can't walk upstairs. Well, they don't have stairs at their house. They've never had that opportunity to do so. So, you know, having these screenings is a really great opportunity to have those conversations with parents about what the expectations and what experiences children should or typically are given, and then ways to accommodate that. So if you don't have steps, is there something that they could step up and down on? You know, a stone. You know, when you're out walking in the woods, can they step up and down on that? And, you know, different ways to be creative with what you have around you. And then the key takeaway is, if there is something that is a concern, early intervention is key. The earlier that you get your child help, the less likely that they're going to need help further on. So that's the point of early intervention, is to take care of whatever problem, whatever delay there is. And then that helps the child to be successful. You know, because a lot of skills for kids, they scaffold, they build upon each other. So, you know, a lot of times you'll see a kid who's lagging behind in something like fine motor skills and picking things up. Well, once they get it, they fly ahead. And, you know, it could just be a matter of them being interested in doing something or having the opportunity. So there's really great, you know, great conversations that can be had with families.
Great, thank you. And, you know, another thing that I've learned is really how holistic the approach to kindergarten readiness is. I think we, when we naturally think about kindergarten readiness, we think academics or we think reading, but it's much more holistic. And Nicole, you mentioned the idea of, well, maybe my kid isn't speaking, but it's because they're having a hearing issue. And so there's much more that goes into it. What other parts of kindergarten readiness that you all are focused on that folks maybe don't realize are out there? And how does working as a collaborative allow you to address all of those different needs of a child?
I just had my collaborative meeting this morning, and we talked about areas of development with some literacy kits that we're looking to offer to our partner centers and other families in the community. And we identified fine motor and social emotional. And social emotional isn't something that dings people when they think of kindergarten readiness. And an example that we use today that we want to move forward with is normalizing, in our new normal right now, normalizing mask use and everything around COVID-19 and how that may affect the child as they go into a classroom for the first time. During their well checks, what that looks like when they see a doctor who is masked up and has face shields, and really normalizing that, and how we can incorporate literacy. So looking into books that talk about maybe COVID-19 and normalizing the mask use and whatnot. So that was something that just happened this morning as we talked as a group, as a collaborative, when I'm reaching out to partners asking, okay, what areas of development? And it was fine motor and social emotional. Those were the top two. And like I said, social emotional, people don't really think of that at first when they think of kindergarten readiness.
I agree with Caitlin. We're always focusing on fine motor skills. Because just in the technology-based world that we live in, it's something that's getting very lost, right? Because kids are like,
or they have strong thumbs,
or they have very strong thumbs,
or corner fingers.
Yes. So they're not used to picking things up. They're to grasping a pencil. It even comes before that. They're not getting tummy time when they're babies, right? Because we want them on their backs to sleep because we know that's the safest. But if they're not getting that tummy time, then they're not developing their upper body muscles and their trunk muscles. So then the kindergarten, and they're like roly-polies, right? They're all over the place. They can't sit down. And teachers, staff are saying, oh, you know, Ryan's not paying attention again. Well, it's not that Ryan's not paying attention. Ryan hasn't developed the trunk muscles to be able to sit on the carpet, right? So focused on just staying upright instead of wobbling that he can't concentrate on those ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. So it starts before that. And then the other big one too is learning to listen to another adult. An adult, a non-familial adult. So the ability to go into a classroom and follow instructions from someone else is a big thing. And we do things like offer the play groups, you know, encourage families to enroll their children in high quality rated centers, because we know that those are all the things that get them to the place where they can get and master all of those standards from kindergarten time.
I think another big thing is sharing. Kids sharing with one another, not everything is mine, taking turns. That's also something that might not ring people's bells when you think of kindergarten readiness, but it's important in a classroom with kids that aren't their brothers and sisters and cousins.
Yeah, and when we first started, we actually went to the kindergarten teachers and said, okay, what are these kids coming in lacking? What can we as a community work on? And they said, we can teach these kids to read and to write and to count and do all that. But if they come into a classroom and they don't know how to play together, they don't know how to take turns, they've never been away from their parent before. So it's, you know, it's petrifying to be in a room with all these, it's like having, you know, 20 brothers and sisters around you, and how to make that work, and mom's not there to help you, or dad, and you know, how to kind of operate in this whole new environment. So, and then other things that we have identified too is if a family's needs aren't met, or if a caregiver's needs aren't met, the child's needs are less likely to met. It's the tyranny of the moment. You know, if you are stressed out, your bills aren't paid, you're about to be evicted, you don't have food, you're not worried about sitting down, reading a book to your kid, or playing cars, or, you know, practicing counting. You're trying to survive. And I think that's where, you know, this holistic approach is really awesome and is really impactful on the whole community, because it's not just a child, it's the entire family, and supporting the needs of everybody, even social emotional needs of families, parenting skills, peer support groups for parents. Those are all really important things that we're all working on together.
Thanks. And Jen, I think you make such a great point there, and I want to hit on that. You know, just listening as a non-parent myself, it feels very overwhelming to hear all of the standards that we're expecting our kids to meet. And, that point that you just make, we're kind of in this together, right? And we're here for the families, and meeting the basic needs of a family is part of kindergarten readiness. And so from a United Way perspective, with all of these collaboratives and all the tremendous work that you all and the partners are doing, that is a huge part of it, is having the back of the parents and being there as a support system. This is no judgment on if you're at 149 or 150 on the checklist. It's about how do we help each other and how do we all get there. So yeah, I think that's a great point.
And if I can jump in one more thought. So another thing that we are really working hard is with all of our partners. It's not just us doing these things. It's having those warm handoffs to say, hey, I'm going to call Susie at the food pantry, and let them know you're coming and that you need help with these things, or make a direct referral to a UCAN caseworker to say, hey, I have a friend who can help you. And I use the analogy a lot to say you're more likely to go to a movie if your best friend says it's good than if you read about it in the paper. And I think that's what these collaboratives are really trying to do, is strengthen all those relationships, to have those connections to all kinds of different resources and understand how they work. So we're not wasting parents' time making inappropriate resources or referrals, that we're just handing them a list with, okay, here's 45 places you could call, good luck. It's us saying, hey, here's the ones closest to your house, or these are the ones we know don't have a wait list for whatever services, or, to kind of be that liaison for referrals. I think that's something that's really special about the collaboratives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfect segue into the next question, Jen. We've really found it, honestly, we've found it inspiring that the kindergarten readiness collaboratives, not only are you collaborating within your own communities, within Lorraine, Elyria, and Oberlin, but the three of you and the collaboratives themselves are really crossing the boundaries of those cities to work together. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how it's changed the impact that you've been able to make?
Well, we can't expect kids to play well in the sandbox together if we're not willing to play together, right? The three of us and our collaboratives all have different strengths, different challenges, and we're all a lot smarter when we're together, right? So building off of each other, and also collaboratives is a very different kind of work than when you're just working individually at an agency. And these are the people that understand that, right? And understand how to have a difficult conversation with a partner or a resource that I might not be aware of. So for us, we want kids to be successful, and I might be geographically in Elyria, but I want Lorraine's kids to be successful, and I want Oberlin's kids to be successful. I want kids all over the county to be successful, because that's what makes for a better community. So I think for us, it has definitely changed the impact when we stop viewing it as my block in this neighborhood only. We're really excited. We were recently awarded a comprehensive literacy grant. Previously, Ready, Set, Go had it under striving readers. And when it was time to rewrite, I reached out to Caitlin and Jen and said, hey, I want to include your partners this time around, because again, if Elyria is strong, that's great. If the whole county is strong, that's even better. And the only way to do that is if we're going to be willing to reach out and work together.
Great, thank you. And a couple questions are coming in from the chat, and I'll get to some of those. One of them is, have you seen different challenges in Lorraine, Elyria, and Oberlin that maybe are unique to each of your communities?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're talking Oberlin, Elyria, Lorraine. So in terms of size, in terms of zip codes, and in terms of that. So, I mean, there's tons of differences versus, Jen making 90 literacy kits versus me making 2,000 maybe to reach all these kids, or, 500, whatever. So just in the numbers alone, you see differences right then and there on what can work here may not work over here as well. You'll have to tweak it or go a different direction. I think that is probably one of the biggest things, other than Nicole being the kind of like longest collaborative, and then Jen, and then myself.
Barriers, obviously. Oh, sorry, Jen. I mean, Caitlin faces a lot of bilingual families. So she's dealing with that. Illyria is starting to see more of that. But even when we all have our challenges, we tend to work with transient populations and transient families. So Caitlin's this week, and next month they're going to be mine. Months from after that, they're going to be with Jen. So while we do all have unique challenges, if we're creative and we continue to communicate with each other, I think that gives us the best ability to address them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think absolutely. And it's, we sit down and we share, hey, here's, Nicole just had a survey about COVID and how it's affecting families.
Oh, yeah.
And so we've both sent out the same survey to our clientele too. And we haven't, looked at the results together yet, but that'll be really interesting to see what each community is saying on the same exact questions. And how can we make these larger scale systems changes or approaches to working with families, especially in times of crisis like now. And I think each of our communities has its own culture. Not only is it just diversity racially or socioeconomically, but it's just those little niches of communities and those little sub-communities, within Oberlin, Elyria, Lorraine, in neighborhoods. And it's about building trust within those communities and, being seen as, we're grant funded with, through the United Way. We had to really fight with our community at the beginning to say, you know what, just because we're grant funded, we're not going away. We're here for the long haul. A lot of people are scared of that because they're like, oh, well, I participated in something and it went away in another year. I'm not going to waste my time. And, I think that's something that having the support of the United Way and the community and having outreach and, things like this is really, really valuable and important to building that trust, not only within our own communities, but each other's and the whole county as well.
That's great. And I think, from a United Way perspective, you all hit on such an important point. And that was that this wasn't about United Way coming into anybody's community and saying, do it this way. This is the tried and true method, do it this way. It really was about being a partner at the table, and the word trust was there. And so how do we extend, ourselves and make ourselves be visible and a true partner in each community, and learn from the communities about what they need and what they want, and then help each other get there. And what might work in Lorraine might not work in Elyria, and might not work in Oberlin, because they're all truly unique. And so that is the goal and really the strength of collective impact, in that you kind of take the strengths that you do have, but you adapt and are flexible based on the needs of each community. So I think that's such a key point. A couple of questions that have come up are about expansion. So what does it look like, or how would we expand these collaboratives into other areas of Lorraine County, not Lorraine, Elyria, and Oberlin? And honestly, maybe that's a better question for me to start with, and then I'll open it up. I think to me, that's a very flattering question. And when United Way started this 8-9 years ago now, that point that Jen just left off with, of kind of abandoning issues. And, unfortunately, funders have a reputation of starting things and then maybe getting distracted and drifting off to the next big thing. And United Way's commitment when we started this was, we knew the goals we were going after were generational, were long-term goals. And so we were going to be committed to kindergarten readiness as our goal, and to Lorraine, Elyria, and Oberlin as those three communities. And we have other outcomes that we're working on as well. And so we don't plan on changing from those. But the hope was that we could prove that this concept works, that we could prove that collective impact works, that we could bring that level of expertise into Lorraine County, that we could help train new leaders to emerge. And the biggest compliment for us would be for new collaboratives to start up that aren't United Way collaboratives. We would be happy to be partners in those that maybe are funded from other funders. And so I think that would be the vision for us, is we'll continue to be committed to Lorraine, Elyria, and Oberlin, but we would love to see other partners kind of rally around kindergarten readiness in other parts of Lorraine County. And United Way could be a partner in that, in terms of offering our level of expertise and our experience, and hope that other funders could take that and sustain it.
Well, I think we've laid the foundation. The Imagination Library, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, is the perfect example of that. It was started in Elyria because it was something that had been talked about for a while. It wasn't going anywhere, so Ready, Set, Go's collaborative said, well, we're going to put money behind it. We're going to get started. And because Dolly's amazing, it took off, you know, like wildfire. And so other funders said, hey, let's expand this to the rest of the county. So it was expanded to the rest of the county. Now there's, you know, almost 8,000 children enrolled. So without that starting in Elyria, it wouldn't have spread to every other zip code in Lorraine County. So that's pretty amazing. And now it's, you know, because the governor's wife has taken an interest, it's statewide, which is pretty cool to see.
That's such a great example. And the more of those types of things that we can help spark that then go countywide, the better. So another question came in, and it was in response to the grant that you mentioned, Nicole. And the question was, what will that add to these communities that maybe hadn't been available before?
So Comprehensive Literacy Grant is a state-funded Department of Education grant. It is focused on creating model literacy sites. So our age band is obviously 0 to 5, and how we can make sure that children have the ability to attend those model literacy sites, and also build the family engagement piece. So we took what we tested over the last 2 years with the Striving Readers Grant, specifically the Haggerty Phonological Awareness Curriculum, Ready Rosie, which is a parent engagement platform, Sit Together and Read, or STAR, which is a print awareness platform, and then the Building Early Literacy and Language Skills book for oral language and vocabulary development. So Haggerty, especially for us, the scores were unbelievable. The classrooms that were implementing Haggerty, the children tested so far above their like-aged peers who were not using it, that our data coordinator actually ran the scores a couple of times because he didn't believe that it could be true. He was really just blown away that a tool that took 10 to 15 minutes to implement every day could make such a huge difference in the classroom. So we are going to be able to provide those tools now to the other communities, as well as professional development opportunities and the support of a literacy coach. And the larger community support of, hey, I've got this student and they are really struggling with print awareness. What have you tried in your classroom? And we'll be doing some videotaping in classrooms to give teachers the ability to be peer models and peer coaches. So we're really excited, and I'm just thrilled that we can bring Lorraine and Oberlin around for the ride.
That's great, thank you. And you know, another piece of collective impact in the way that we operate these collaboratives was with the goal of attracting additional funds into Lorraine County. Everything that we do is an attempt to work together and not compete. And so in no way do we ever want to compete and take funding from somebody else in the community. But instead, in partnership with each other, we want to attract new dollars into the county that probably wouldn't have come here otherwise. And being able to leverage not only your own collaborative, Ready, Set, Go, but then to add on to other collaboratives with, you know, multiple partners I think really helps. And, we've seen grants come into school districts and other partners that we really are counting as those leveraged funds. And we're seeing some really good positive momentum around attracting more dollars into Lorraine County to go after these issues, which is great. So the next question, specifically on the effects of the pandemic, what effects have you seen on the families that you serve, and how have you been able to adapt to serving them in this new way?
I say childcare. I know that's the hot issue. I did see that there was approval made yesterday or the day before that families will be able to receive county subsidy to pay for their school-age children to be in a safe space and in a rated center. So that's a huge accomplishment that's come out of conversations, not specifically that we've had, but that other people in our shoes have had around the community and around the state. I think what the three of us have a group chat that is always going. And I think what we're always talking about is, what are we supposed to do? COVID took everything away. It took play groups away. It took parent groups away. It took childcare and preschool away. And, things are slowly starting to come back. But I feel like there's always that fear of, well, we want to do these things, but how can we do it? What is going to be the best response from families? But the silver lining of that is we've had, with Oberlin Kids, we've had so many more engagements, so many more people reaching out. We tried starting a private peer support group or parents or caregiver support group 2 years ago. We had 4 members, and one was me and one was a coworker. And, we were so discouraged. We tried it again. I had 45 members in 12 hours. So I think that the pandemic has brought some good things together. There's a lot more accessibility for families by offering virtual meetings like this. We've been offering virtual parent cafes or parent support groups where we talk about certain, specific questions and, so we've adapted that. We started that, and it's been very well received. We are, I believe, all working on literacy kits. We're being very intentional about putting items in these kits to help supplement families at home, because whether families are sending their kids back to preschool or daycare or they're keeping them home, we want to empower those families of, here's some things to do with your kids and just play. If you do nothing else with your kids, just read. I don't care what it is. Read something every day, read out loud, and play with them. And then, we're going to be doing some more virtual parent sessions where we just teach parents how to play. Here you're playing Matchbox cars with your kids. We'll have them sort them by color. That's early math. There's things that parents are doing every day that they don't realize how important they are for brain development and for kindergarten readiness. So that's one of the greatest things that's come out is parents seem even more engaged with wanting to know what to do at home just because of the crisis.
And I think it's also illuminated what a tough job working parents have, right? Being a working mom feels impossible in the best of situations, right? In a COVID world, you're just happy you got through the day. Giving parents that permission to just get through the day, I think, is also really important. And giving them those small tools, like Jen said, because when you've got 47 emails to answer and you need to cook the 95th meal of the day, right? The thought of what am I going to do to build my child's brain is overwhelming. But the little things, the reading, the sorting, those goes a long way. And showing parents that you have plenty of stuff in your house to do all of those things. You don't need to spend a lot of money. You don't need to have little parts everywhere because they're going to get lost anyways. Just giving parents permission to be okay.
I also saw this morning in my collaborative meeting, a lot of the partners who are childcare centers or preschool, the school districts, they're now feeling like, oh my gosh, you're going through that too, kind of thing. Like, oh, that's such a relief. I'm experiencing that. And then having the larger conversation of how can the collaborative together support this thing that's going on as a group. So I witnessed that earlier, and it's so crazy that that a coronavirus world will do that, but that really has brought us together in saying like, wow, this, you know, you're facing this, you're facing this, you're facing this, and then putting together some type of plan or initiative, something as simple as a Rising Titans literacy kit for waitlisted families at a center so that they can strengthen their in-home learning, even if it's outside of a curriculum for a school district preschool. It's giving them books at nighttime to read. It's giving them Play-Doh recipes, or, you know, things that like Jen was talking about, to just play and have fun and read. So I've seen that be a positive, I guess. Positive, I guess.
I think the collaboratives put us way ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in larger state meetings, listening to people, I'm like, well, Lorraine County, we've been there, we've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I think because we had already built all these relationships, it's made it easier to be creative and adapt, because I wasn't trying to get Jen and Caitlin to trust me. They already do trust me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, we're dealing with just families in the community. The need was just like everybody else's need for essential items in the beginning. Like we did well checks, and we checked up on families and asked if they needed a pack of diapers, if they needed some wipes, if they needed some pull-ups, and if we weren't providing them, pointing them to the right person who could help them get those essential items. So we're just, you know, it's just regular families in the community trying to get by just like everybody else. So that's, you know, and that's what we're here for. That's what we saw in the beginning of COVID, just like everybody else. And
I think that reminds me of, you know, it's been nice at food pantries. People have been able to say, oh no, I'm picking up for my neighbor down the road. And it's not an issue anymore. When we did a giveaway a couple weeks ago, you know, oh, there's 3 families in this car because transportation is an issue. Yes, all 12 of your kids can have school supplies. We're not going to limit that. So it's just made for a bigger sense of community.
Yeah.
So how can we help people, myself included, people who are watching, people in the community? What are the best ways for us to get involved to support kindergarten readiness?
I always say just advocacy, you know, let your friends and family, your neighbor down the road, your nieces, nephews, everybody, let them know that there are these 3 collaboratives and many more through United Way that aren't kindergarten readiness focused, but that there are organizations and groups of people that are here for you. And, you know, that we want what's best for our communities. And, you know, specifically for kindergarten readiness, you know, understanding that kindergarten readiness starts at birth and even pre-birth, you know, prenatal care and having a safe environment to live in, and, you know, going for well checks. And that's another thing with the pandemic. A lot of people are not up to date on well checks and on vaccinations because they're afraid to go into the doctor's office. I know all 3 of our collaboratives have had those conversations with our partners, you know, trying to help advocate to families. It is safe. I tell people it's probably safer now than it's ever been. Everything's cleaner now than it's ever been. Take your kid, get their well check, get their, you know, their vaccinations, stay up to date. But it's just really advocacy. We're here, we want to help. And if we don't have particular resources, chances are we know somebody who does. But, and I know all of us and all of our personalities, we will figure it out. If we don't know the answer, we're not going to rest until we find somebody to help you.
We'll make an answer.
Yes.
Yeah, right. That also came up earlier in my meeting as well. Okay, let's talk about the literacy and the academic part, but let's talk about the health and wellness part too of all of this. Just because your kindergartner, your preschooler isn't in a seat in a center doesn't mean, and they're at home learning, maybe doing virtual learning, doesn't mean that they shouldn't get their shots or go to their most recent well visit. So the advocacy piece of the holistic approach to kindergarten readiness is so important. All these things that we've touched on, it's just not ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. I mean, it's everything.
And if people want tangible things that they can do, because I totally agree with everything Jen and Caitlin have said, you know, we're never going to turn down books. We're never going to turn down crayons. We're never going to turn down pipe cleaners and beads, because those things might not look like much to you, but for us, it's the building blocks of what our kids need to grow and develop. And we'll find a creative way to use, even if it's your scrap of beads, your scrap of, you know, you cleaned out your craft closet.
Yep.
From United Way perspective, I got my start here as a donor engagement specialist, so I'm never going to miss an opportunity to make an ask. And I just want to say, you know, 2 ways for people watching to get involved. One would be to make a donation, uwloraincounty.org/support kindergarten. And you can actually break up your gift amongst the 3 kindergarten readiness collaboratives and direct it towards the community or communities of your choice. And also, United Way of Greater Lorain County has a program called Collect, Sort, Deliver, where volunteers can get involved to collect needed supplies, really that become gap fillers in the community through our partners. And we sort those in our warehouse and then deliver them out to partners. And 2 of those items, books and school supplies, are particularly of interest here. And the literacy kits that have been mentioned throughout, our volunteers help put together as part of the Collect, Sort, Deliver program as well. So those are 2 opportunities that you can find on the United Way website at uwloraincounty.org. So before we turn it over to see if there are more questions, I want to end my set of questions just to ask, what are your plans to support children this fall as they start going back to school or as they continue learning through a virtual platform?
So as a group, the 3 of us are working on calendars to be distributed physically and virtually that just give those easy daily tips for families. And I know that once we have those calendars out there, we'll also be all doing Facebook posts, Instagram posts saying, okay, this says, oh, Jen, what was your example the other day about differentiating?
I don't remember. I don't remember the specific example. But so say it says, have your child write their name, you know, write the letters of their name. Well, you could work with an infant just about, you know, making circles or lines, or, you know, give them an infant holding a crayon that makes a dot on a piece of paper. That is their writing, and that's their eye-hand coordination and all the other skills that have to do with writing later down the road. You know, so yeah, like Caitlin or Nicole's saying, is that we're looking to expand and adapt and say, okay, so here's kind of a lower level infant, toddler, and then so for your toddler, you can have them draw in the sandbox with a stick, or you can you know, just how the parts of lines and circles and squiggles, well, those make up all the letters that we identify as the alphabet. So, you know, those are things that you can do with your kids. But yeah, go ahead, Nicole, if you wanted to finish. Sorry.
So getting those out into the community, we'll be restarting our play groups in October once our new crop of AmeriCorps members start. So we will have those going, you know, enrolling your children in childcare centers. They're open. They're the cleanest, you know, always one of the cleanest spaces that you can be in. Because we realize that little people are kind of germ magnets, cleaning, but you know, now more than ever.
Yeah, Rising Titans, we are, like, literacy kits have been mentioned tons of times during the last 45 minutes, but we are supporting the centers in our collaborative and providing those, like, in-home, strengthening that in-home learning with those waitlisted children. Communicating with the community who has openings, like Nicole just said, getting them into centers, making that warm handoff. That's really the world we live in right now. So we have to adapt and meet the parents where they are and see what their needs are and go from there.
Yeah, and I think from Overland Kids, we're looking at working with our centers and coming together to provide, family engagement activities. So, okay, just because you can't get to the event that's happening at Center A, well, Center B is going to be offering a, parent engagement activity as well when we're allowed to actually be together in places, but even virtually. But that's the really great thing about our collaboratives and about our partners is, we always say, we don't care where your kid goes. We want them to go somewhere safe and high quality. And that's what's really special about our partners is that we're not competing with each other. It's not, well, we're full and, we're full, but I know these other centers have spaces available or call this person. So I think that's really exciting and, what we've been working on. But I think it's that ongoing parent engagement. It's supporting families at home. It's letting families know that you are doing great. And, even on your worst day, your kid thinks you are absolutely perfect.
And honestly, we all have a CIA mindset now. So if you talk to us in 6 months, these tests that we're doing will probably form into like a whole different test and new initiatives and new programs that we're trying, because the world will probably look different again in 6 months. So that's the beauty of it too, working together and really testing things out and, meeting the parent where they're at and finding them resources and whatnot. So that's also the beauty of all of this that we're doing.
Yeah, flexibility. It's really, it's really something special about the United Way and collective impact approach is that we have the flexibility to adapt to what our communities and our families need. And that's really special. You don't find that a whole lot in grant work and in some organizations. So.
Yep.
Couple points that you all made I just want to highlight. And the first is CIA, so everybody understands what that actually means. The Collaborative Improvement Advisor, which is a professional development course, really equivalent to a green belt or a black belt improvement project course that I mentioned earlier. A new style of leadership, a new style of working in this nonprofit sector. So really developing the next wave of leaders and through the United Way Network and even outside of the United Way Network, so that we can expand this work, outside of the areas where we are focused. So we affectionately refer to ourselves as CIAers, and that's Collaborative Improvement Advisor. Another important thing there that Jen, you brought up is, hey, we're full, but we know we can get you in somewhere else. And it's this idea of reimagining what it is we're looking to do here. And so the idea isn't to position my single entity agency above any other agency. The idea is that we have overlapping missions and we want to accomplish the same things. And so in order to do what is best for our community and for individual families and kids that we're serving, it doesn't matter which agency gets the credit, which person gets the credit. It's constantly asking ourselves two questions, and it's what do we want to accomplish and who else do we need at the table to help us accomplish that goal? And when you look at things that way, it makes the ability to reach these goals much more attainable than it would be if we were going at it independently. And the third thing you mentioned was flexibility. The kind of traditional idea of a grant is, you write a grant and you either get it or you don't. And if you don't, you're out until maybe the next round. And in this case, we're committed to these goals. And so whichever entities, cross-sector, nonprofits or public or for-profit that have any overlap or care about these goals, they have an opportunity to be involved. And if the plan doesn't come together the first time, that doesn't mean no. It means how do we continuously improve to get that funding to go after this with a plan that we think will work. But then we follow the data. And again, in a traditional grant, it's very strict. And you wrote the grant to do this, and we want you to do that. And even if halfway through you kind of realize that isn't working, you're stuck to it. And in this case, it's continuously learning and continuously improving and following the data. So with small scale tests, you can prove or disprove what is or isn't going to work. And then you do more of the good things and less of the bad things, and you continue to learn along the way. And so we just feel like that's the best way. And, continuously asking the question, who else do we need at the table? I'll wrap this up by extending that invitation out to folks who are listening. If you're interested in kindergarten readiness, particularly in Lorraine, Elyria, or Oberlin, we want you to be a part of the conversation. If you're interested in kindergarten readiness at all in Lorraine County, we want to talk to you as well. Imagination Library is important to us, as is expanding collective impact into other communities. So with that, I'll ask everybody watching to follow our YouTube channel, subscribe. That way, when we do more of these chats in the future, you'll be looped in and you'll get notifications and know when we're going live and posting new content. And I'll thank the three of you. Really, as we kind of led into this, we talked a lot about our friendship, and that was really genuine. And I just appreciate all the great work that the three of you are doing in your communities and with all of your partners. And it makes doing something like this just really fun. So I appreciate the time. Caitlin, Nicole, and Jen, great job. Any last comments before we sign off?
Just thanks for the opportunity. This was, it's always fun to hang out with you guys and chat. As we were saying beforehand, Ryan and Ashley had asked, well, who's answering this question? We said, I don't know. We play off of each other. And I think that's just really indicative of how our groups work together, off of each other, because we're just here for the kids. We just want to be a better community for the kids.
And I think like I said, I'm the baby of the group. So these two have helped me so much. And through this, I kept reposting the event on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And I couldn't just say my colleagues, I said my friends too, because we really are friends. We work together as colleagues, but we still trust each other and work hard together as well.
And we laugh a lot together too.
A lot.
Well, great. So it's a perfect way to end it. Again, I thank you for everything you're doing, for your time today. And I thank all of you for watching, and we hope that you can be a part of these going forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.